Party time, Mom. Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. It's Monday. Oh, my gosh. The weekend is all over my face. Yeah, Studio 22, the mothership, Puppet Master Mark, and, of course, Chris Cruz driving us into the nether regions of all things insanity. Hope everybody had a good weekend. There was a football game last night. It was somewhere in the background of my life that was going on. We had a little get-together with some fine folks in Montgomery County, Texas. And every now and then I could hear like some screaming that was going on, and I think that was the halftime show. I don't know. Mark, Chris, did you guys watch the Super Bowl? Did you care anything about it? Did it matter any whatsoever to you guys?
No, I decided to go with the Big Brother Celebrity with Julie Chen.
Yeah.
And then went to bed by 9 o'clock.
Well, I was there for it. I don't really care. The only vested interest I had in the Super Bowl was I wanted to see, well, two things. One, there were three Georgia Bulldogs that were on the LA Rams, so I was pulling for them, particularly Matt Stafford, who's the quarterback. But more importantly, I wanted to see just how many people of note, whether it's politicians or celebrities, weren't going to be wearing their masks. And, of course, the mayor, I posted on my social media, the mayor of L.A., who, again, took a picture with Magic Johnson 2 weeks ago at the playoff game and said when he took his mask off, he held his breath for 2 seconds, as though that matters. We beat that dog. He was seen, again, conversing with others with no mask on. So I've discovered that the reason this guy doesn't need to wear a mask and he can hold his breath so long and have conversations is because he's talking out of his ass. Whatever. Maybe he's evolving in some kind of way to be able to just breathe through the gills. But there were lots of celebrities there. No mask in sight. And so I just want to remind everybody that pandemics do not have Super Bowls. All right? You don't put 70,000 people together in a big punch bowl and just turn them loose when everybody's dying. So, you can see there's Andy Garcia and there's who's that? Chris Rock, and there's Bra. There's Magic Johnson and Charlize Theron. Let's see who we can all name. There's Marky Mark. He's just probably pissed he wasn't a part of the Super Bowl halftime show. Sean Penn doesn't know he's on the planet. Who's that there? Is that Matt Damon? Is that who that is? I can't believe I recognize all these people. But I saw pictures, of course, of J-Lo and Ben Affleck. And I saw Martha Stewart and Guy Fieri. Who else did we see? I saw Ellen DeGeneres. Saw her there.
But we don't care about her, though.
Looking rough.
She's canceled.
She looks like Eminem.
She's
looking rough. Looking brutal, Ellen. But there it is. So the pandemic's over. And what you're going to see happen here, guys, is I'm a fortune teller. I'm a prophet. I can tell the future. So I'm going to use as an example Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, who came out the other day and he said, we're not interested in taking things away from people. We want to make sure that we protect your Second Amendment. Now, back when he was running for president, he said, hell yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s. Hell yeah, we're coming for your AK-47. But now he's running for governor in Texas, and he knows that Texans aren't going to put up with that kind of rhetoric, so he's changed his tune. So they're allowed to do that because they're leftists. They're allowed to do that, right? There's no accountability to anybody, just like the Durham report now that's coming out about the Hillary Clinton campaign spying on Donald Trump's campaign. I know they said they didn't do it. I mean, I heard her say on 60 Minutes that there's no evidence when what's her name was interviewing Donald Trump. There's no evidence. We can't keep saying this. There's no evidence. We'll play that later on, but I just want to point out to people that you can flip-flop if you're a lefty. So here's what's going to happen. The poll numbers look like crap. for the progressives. And they know the midterm elections are coming up in November. It's going to be a red wave. It's going to be bam, just a tidal wave of conservatism, just bam, because they know that lefty progressive policies don't work. $100 bills to fill up my truck with diesel. And trust me, that gets expensive on the campaign trail. And I'm paying for it, by the way. I ain't paying for fuel with campaign donations or anything else like that. I'm paying for it out of my own pocket. It gets expensive. And then you got 7.5% inflation. So, pretty rough right there when every dollar in your pocket's really only worth like 92 cents. It's kind of rough. So, they're going to flip-flop. They're going to open things back up. This pandemic, this thing that was going to be a dark, brutal winter of death, or whatever Bill Beck Better said. This winter of death, it's just going to be erased. They're going to let people try to go back to normal, and then they're going to say, we cured COVID. We are responsible for opening back up. Just like Greg Abbott did in Texas. Everybody's like, well, he opened the state up. Yeah, he closed it down in the first place. You can't play firefighter and arsonist and expect to get away from it when we're going to call you out on your BS. But that's what the Biden administration is going to do. They're going to say they shut down the whole deal. And they're going to pat themselves on the back. They're going to celebrate. And the sheeple out there are just going to say, oh, aren't they just fine people that just really care about the American citizens? But no, in California, they've eased the mask mandates just in time for the Super Bowl, by the way. Las Vegas did the same thing, but your kids still have to mask up and go to school. So you still got to put your face diaper on the kids and keep them from breathing oxygen and send them out there. And, again, Timmy goes to school wearing a Spider-Man mask and comes home wearing a Superman mask because he traded with Johnny at lunch. That's just the reality of what's going to go on. So it's child abuse is what it is. And people can come at me all they want because they say, oh, you don't have a right to say anything about these masks. Listen, you can wrap your head in a tampon or a maxi pad. I don't care what you do. But when it comes down to the hypocrisy of the whole thing, I'm going to call it out. And this is hypocritical. So when the elites are out there maskless, frolicking at the Super Bowl, and then you're going to send kids to school, I don't get it. And they don't work. That's the thing. I mean, if there was any evidence whatsoever that masks work, you could make an argument there. But the states that lifted the mandates, whether it's Florida or Texas or whatever, and it started unmasking its citizens, the COVID rates have been the exact same as the states that are masked up. So the numbers aren't any different. So obviously the masks aren't anything that made any form of any type of difference. So anyway, maybe I'm crazy. I wrote a book called Am I Crazy? You can still get it. Amazon's actually got a deal going on it right now. Yeah. I'm like in the bargain basement. It's a fantastic place to be. I want to talk to you about Texas, though, because early voting started today. For some of you, it's Valentine's Day. For me, it's Singles Awareness Day. I want to remind you guys, do something nice for your gal or your guy or whatever, however you float. I don't care. But February 14th, it is the first day of early voting. I've gotten tons and tons of messages from people coming in saying that they have voted, and they voted for me, which is surreal. It's humbling. It's an honor. It's quite incredible. We've worked our tails off. We busted our butts, and there's still people out there. I mean, there's even people close to me in my life who are like, are you serious about this? And I'm like, would you please pay attention? I mean, 18 months we've been campaigning all over the state of Texas. I drove from Midland, Texas to Houston the other day. That's a long drive. It took me about 7.5 hours. And still not even at either tip of Texas at that point. And I know you long haul truckers. I mean, that's not even a day's work for you, but it was a long trip. It was a long trip. You know why? Because I love this state. I love this state. Tomorrow night, so we're going to have to pre-tape some shows, just kind of break down the fourth wall, let you guys know what's going on. We're going to have to pre-tape some shows today for Tuesday and Wednesday night. Got some special topics coming that we're going to hammer on. But I'm going to be in Horseshoe Bay, Texas, tomorrow night, Tuesday. And then I'm going to be in Bandera, Texas, Wednesday night. So come out, hang out with us. I'm going to be doing a show in Greenville, Texas on the 25th at the Texan. We, by the way, had an awesome show in Midland, Texas, Friday night at the Wagner Noel. Thanks to everybody who came out. We even had a marriage proposal. He said yes. Yeah, my friend Liz asked my friend Ford if he'd marry her. She proposed to him on stage. He said yeah. So anyway, it was a good night. A lot of fun. But where we're going to be in Texarkana on the 18th. Have a fundraiser in Dublin, Texas at Lucky Vines Winery on February 23rd. And another fundraiser at Moe's Place in Katy, Texas. Everybody knows Moe's Place. Katy, Texas on February 27th. For my election returns watch party, I'm going to grab a bottle of tequila and go hide in a closet. That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in a fetal position, sucking my thumb, humming Jesus Loves Me while I rock back and forth with a bottle of tequila. That's where I'm going to be on March 1st. Just kidding. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see. But we got to get this big government out of our life, folks. The government overreach, even in the state of Texas, grassroots conservatives are fed up with career politicians. And everybody sitting in there right now is a career politician. And people are just tired of it. So they're showing up to vote. These people who have never voted in a primary election are showing up across the board in Texas. There's tons of people who are saying things like we're dusting off our voter card and we're going to show up. These people are tired of it. We've got our billboard campaign that's going on around the state right now. So if you're looking at the digital billboards, you probably see my ugly mug on it from time to time. But we're getting, 25,000, 30,000 impressions a day on some of those. And so anyway, it's pretty good. I mean, the momentum is huge. And I got to shake hands with some people last night, convince them of why I'm running for governor in the state of Texas, and convince them that I was the best option. I'm the only non-politician running for this office, and we know that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was here campaigning in San Antonio the other day, and when we're going to take a break, then I want to come back and I want to show you some clips of that. But AOC, she said that Texas turning blue is inevitable. And so she vowed that it's going to happen. It's going to flip blue. And she said that they would make sure that they unionize the hell out of this state. Somebody needs to smack that in the mouth. I'm serious. So Saturday she was in San Antonio and she was supporting progressive candidates who were here. And she said, if we flip Texas, we flip the country. She's not wrong in that regard. Texas turning blue is inevitable. The only question is when. We're going to fight for a living wage. We're going to make sure we unionize the hell out of this state, and we're going to make sure that not one dime is made exploitatively across any worker, especially the undocumented. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get wide open borders. You're going to get unionization. It's going to be government's going to get bigger. It's going to get more gross. It's going to have a big bloated spending problem. And, that's what's going to happen when you got a guy like Beto O'Rourke who's running for governor. And hell yeah, we're going to. No, you're not. You can't find your manhood, much less my rifle. So you got to remember AOC is a person who said that capitalism is irredeemable. So that's what we're headed to. Better do something about it, folks. Go vote. Ronald Reagan saw it 40 years ago, massive inflation that we haven't seen since, today. In his own words, inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber, and as deadly as a hitman. Right now, your retirement accounts are under attack thanks to the inflationary policies of this administration. If you've not yet called Birch Gold, the best people to trust to help you diversify your 401ks and your IRAs into gold, then you're missing the boat, folks. Actually, you're treading water without a life vest. Birch Gold has your life vest. They're waiting on you to call. Let them help you convert an IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Thousands of satisfied customers with an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. You can trust Birch Gold to protect your savings. Text CHAD, I spell it, Chad, to the number 989898. Right now, get a no-cost, no-obligation info kit. Comprehensive 20-page guide reveals how gold and silver can protect your savings and how you can buy them under the umbrella of a tax-sheltered account. So do it right now. Text the word Chad to 989898. Chad to 989898. Be right back. Well, we haven't pointed out the fact that we have a new microphone set up. Look at this. We have room for activities, Mark. We got y'all can't see it. We got the table here. We can put a computer there. We got the new mic arm and stuff. You got a new table. Look at that. Show the whole thing. We got a table. We got room to put stuff. We're gonna put some barware up here, some tequila stuff, so we can have our quote booster shots. Anyway, we've got that clip of AOC. I know everyone was waiting with bated breath just to see and hear the beloved horsemouth one. And I've got a point I want to make about that. Yes, that's me being mean. Play the clip.
It will happen. The only question is when, Texas. The only question is when. So the work that you put in today, the work that you put in tomorrow, the work that you put in on Monday, when you go one more door when you're tired, when you make one more call, when you feel exhausted, you're bringing that day one day sooner. One day sooner, one day faster. This state will turn blue. It's going to happen with the seat of San Antonio and Austin. It's going to spring down to Laredo. It's going to go up to Houston and to Dallas and to all across the state. Rural and urban and suburban. We're going to fight for a living wage as a minimum wage. We're going to make sure we unionize the hell out of this state. We're going to make sure that we confront corrupt industries and lobbyists and big money. And we're going to make sure that not one dime is made exploitatively across any worker, especially the undocumented.
Yeah. Those people have to know she's an idiot, right? Like everybody out there screaming and stuff. I mean, they have to know. Anybody that's out there screaming for more of this, quote, democratic socialism that she's pitching, to sit there and say, we want to go deeper in debt. We want to really, you talk about exploitation. I mean, again, minimum wage is not supposed to be a living wage. It's a starter wage. You're not supposed to stay living on minimum wage. And so just that one point alone is like, why would you buy into this kind of stuff? But I will say Texas is in trouble. Texas is very much in trouble. Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, El Paso, Austin, Houston. I call them the blueberries in the chili. It's those big blue cities, man. They're the ones. It's mob rule. We've got to change that. One of my proposals has been, let's make sure that if we're going to add an amendment to the Constitution that's ratified by 3/4 of the counties in the state, so that gives places like, where was I the other night? In McCamey, in Upton County, population nobody. But they got just as much. They should have just as much say as Dallas County. Let's let this balance of power speak for what it is. It's not a mob rule. But that's what they want. Meanwhile, I want to talk about. Where I lost it here. Chris. There it is. All right, I was dropping everything. Federal District Judge Xavier Rodriguez issued a temporary ban Friday on a part of the new Texas law that prohibited election officials from encouraging voters to mail in their ballots. So this is from Daily Caller. The judge voted in favor of Harris County, Texas, that's Houston, whose officials accused the state's voting bill SB 1, signed into law in 2021, of precluding them from assisting voters, according to CNN. The injunction does not affect any voting procedures, Rodriguez wrote. It simply prevents the imposition of criminal and civil penalties against officials for encouraging people to vote by mail if they're eligible to do so. He pushed back, Rodriguez did, on the arguments from the Texas Attorney General's office that banning the enforcement of this provision would create confusion among voters ahead of their state's March 1st primary, according to CNN. The state's election law envisions a punishment of at least 6 months in prison for any public official to deliberately solicit the submission of an application to vote by mail from a voter who did not request one. It has a chilling effect, the judge reportedly said, of the clause's effect on election officials. They don't know when they're going to run afoul of this vague law. Rodriguez also reportedly took issue with the ambiguity of the law's language, claiming that it was not clear who fell under the category of a public official. So this the voter laws and stuff like that, everybody wants the penalties lessened. Why? Because they're screwing with our elections. The elections get screwed with, and that happens by Republicans and Democrats. It happens on both sides. I am convinced that the administration that's in power right now with Greg Abbott I'm convinced they're meddling in elections. I'm convinced. People say, when I say that, people say, "Oh, you want to have an excuse for when you lose." No, I'm just telling you the facts are the facts. So they sent out the Secretary of State, who's appointed by the governor, sent out an email to the poll workers for certification. Buried deep in that email was a video that you have to go in, log into, and you have to watch the video to get certified as a poll worker and a poll watcher. So the problem is the video was hidden. The video was glitchy. The video malfunctioned a lot. The video kicks back, or the registration process kicks back your username and your password. But here's the problem. It was sent out merely a week before early voting was going to start, which means they were wanting people to be confused or to miss it altogether. So the poll workers and the poll watchers they didn't have time, in many cases, to get the training and get the people recruited that they needed in order to get out there and do this. This is happening by the Secretary of State. These are the kind of things that lead to problems with our elections. And Texas is not secure in that regard. So, any attempt to secure it, you're going to have these people like Rodriguez who's going to come along and say, well, you officials out there encouraging mail-in voting, you shouldn't be penalized for that. We shouldn't be having mail-in voting. Absentee ballots are one thing. Absentee ballots are, for people who are essential infrastructure workers, or they're medical providers, or they are deployed, or they are shut in some form or capacity, whether it's elderly, geriatric, or disabled in some way, or first responders who can't get to vote. But again, this whole thing of the mail-in voters or the drop boxes and all these things, it leads to a problem when it comes to the integrity of our elections. I want us to be able to trust. Somebody just sent me a picture, or they tagged me on Facebook of they voted for me. Now, first of all, people are sending me these pictures. Not legal to be taking pictures of your ballot. So let's chill on that, all right? Let's chill on that. My mother, she was kind of joking. She goes, I wish you could get me one of those ballots. Now, that's a mom wanting a keepsake, right? That's definitely illegal. We're not going to find you an extra ballot, Mom. Now, you can print off a sample ballot. Those are on all your county websites and county election websites. But no. But the picture that I got tagged in, of course, is a voting machine. It's a voting machine where you have to digitally go in and press the button that's on there. I don't like that. It's too easily manipulated. How do you know that the things? Again, there's enough conspiracy in me to just say, I don't trust the machines. I've seen the Terminator. I don't trust the machines. And I don't trust the people who run those machines or calibrate those machines or do maintenance on those machines or anything else, because anybody that's ever tried to buy something on the internet has run into problems with the machines. At some point in time, there are glitches, there are malfunctions. So I want us to get to a place where we have integrity in elections. Or guess what? We will 100% do what AOC said. We will flip blue. We will flip blue, because I promise you, if they could cheat, steal, whatever they got to do to take power, that's exactly what they're going to do, folks. And it's not good. Power is corrupting. It is. And I don't care if it's got an R by its name or a D by its name. We got to make sure that what we're doing has integrity and that we're putting people in office that have some sense of morality and are willing to fight for the people who sent them there and their priorities. And right now, I just don't see that happening. That's the reason I'm in the fight that I'm in. Hey, are you trying to watch this show, but you keep turning the volume up and up and up? Trust me, it's not a volume issue. Did you know 9 out of 10 people still buy hearing aids from clinics and pay $5,000+ even though much more affordable options exist? That's why you've got to check out MD Hearing Aid. MD Hearing Aid is an FDA-registered rechargeable hearing aid that costs a fraction of what typical hearing aids cost. MD Hearing Aid's Volt Plus model costs over 80% less than clinic hearing aids. Hearing aids require clinic-level care for the best results. Clinic-level care comes from licensed hearing professionals. MD Hearing Aid brings clinic-level care right to you via telemedicine from doctors and licensed hearing professionals. MD Hearing Aid was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. So he made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anybody can afford. So if you forget to take off your hearing aids in the shower, you don't have to worry about it. The Volt Plus is water resistant in up to 3 feet of water. It's a deep shower. Plus, it's rechargeable with battery life that lasts up to 30 hours. So how do they make their hearing aids for a fraction of the cost of the clinic hearing aid? Since about 95% of the people who need a hearing aid only require a few settings, MD Hearing Aid simplified the need for certain components not needed by most people. Plus, they cut out the price-hiking middleman. MD Hearing Aid has brought affordable hearing to over 600,000 satisfied customers. Plus, they offer 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee so you can buy with confidence. Veterans love the MD Hearing Aid, and let me tell you something. A lot of the folks who have been deployed and they got some hearing issues that are going on. So go get clinic level care for 80% less with MD Hearing Aid. Go to mdhearingaid.com. Use promo code WatchChad to get their buy one get one for $299.99 each when you buy a pair deal. Plus, they're adding a free extra charging case, a $100 value just for the Chad Prather Show audience. So head to mdhearingaid.com. Use my promo code WatchChad. Buy one, get one for $299.99 each when you get a pair deal. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Exciting stuff. Unless you're visiting some of the seedier corners of the internet, you're probably not going to see a better video today than this one. Mark, show the video.
Starting tomorrow, we don't have to wear masks anymore!
I don't know about you guys. Every time I watch that video, I think somebody's kind of cutting up the onions nearby. I mean, bring some, maybe some of that dust and pollen into the air as well. I get a little emotional seeing these kids lose their minds with excitement at the notion that they no longer have to wear a diaper on their face. In fact, you'll notice that a few of those kids are so excited that they just rip the mask off right then and there, even though the teacher says it's got to stay on for one more day, because, one more day was what's going to make the difference. Now, if ever there's a sign that some kids will grow up to do things like throwing tea in Boston Harbor and giving the finger to the reigning tyrannical government, it's things like that. But folks, as much as it warms the heart to see these kids shouting and screaming happily at the thought of living like normal human children again, it also bothers me. Because here's the thing. It should have never gotten to this point in the first place. These kids wouldn't know to be screaming gleefully in the face of their lifted restrictions if they'd never had those restrictions in the first place. Now, in the long run, it may be a good thing because historically, the people who appreciate freedom the most are the people who've experienced a lack of it at some point in their lives. Now, it may be the case that this gives those kids the impetus to pay attention to what's going on around them more as they grow up. And they really will lead this nation back into the greatness that we've largely left behind. But at the same time, it's hard to watch because our children never deserve to sink into the morass of subsumed political power that the left has tended like a garden for the past couple of years. I mean, how can we as a society think that that's been okay? How can we have sat back and been complacent when the very physical totems of the woke religion have spread to our children? Now, we're giddy twisting along possibly in the very last moments of our society's tailspin and laughing while we throw up because we think it's all just part of the carnival ride. Newsflash, folks, the job of protecting your children from tyranny until they're old enough to protect themselves is no game. It isn't just an important thing that you do. It's the important thing that you do. And we failed. Liberals and conservatives alike, we failed to fully step in, put our shoulder to the grindstone, and stop this thing before it did irreparable damage. Throughout this pandemic, we have allowed the very fabric of freedom to be torn to such a degree that Lady Liberty lays naked in the street at this point, just awaiting whatever cruel fate will befall her at the hands of the mob. The mob we didn't stop. The mob we didn't stop. Folks, we got to work harder at this. I love this video of these kids, but I would much rather that it never need to have existed in the first place. Let's get our kids out of these public schools. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again every time I get. I mean, the fact that they were willing to pull this garbage in the first place, they can deal with the consequential brain drain. And if that institution shrivels up and dies on the vine as a result, well, so be it. We need to reform the damn thing anyway. So take a moment to celebrate the beauty of this video, folks, and then let's get back to work kicking the left's ass out of our lives. And while we're at it, let's just kick big government out of our lives as well. I mean, I don't care if it comes with a D or an R next to the name. If it's big government and they're telling you all these things that you want to hear and not doing anything about it. And listen, I'm tired. I'm really tired of these people coming at me going, you're just bashing teachers. No, I've never bashed a teacher. Unless it's somebody that's trying to, we've done the TikToks where they're indoctrinating these kids. We've seen plenty of that kind of stuff. No, by and large, people who are educators are doing a great thing. They want to shape and mold the minds of children in the next generation. But I know that their hands are being tied from truly being able to teach and train and test and evaluate and promote. And I want you to be able to do that. I really do. I want you to be able to teach a kid and then with a tear in your eye, watch that kid get promoted to the next level. And then you can look at them when they're adults and say, I had that kid in 4th grade. I always knew he was going to be something. I always knew that he was going to amount to something because he was a little wild at times and he's climbing the walls hyper, but there was a spark there. And I believe that I helped shape that a little bit. And I want teachers to be able to have that, not playing with this kind of indoctrination garbage. And so people say, well, I don't know a single teacher that's indoctrinating a child. Well, yeah, you do. And whether they mean to or not, it's what's happening. Because it's getting it's integrated into the curriculum now. And you have no way to get around it. So my math doesn't come with an ideology. All right? I shouldn't have to do algebra with some kind of progressive belief system or any belief system in that regard. We're not doing interpretive math here. Just teach the math. Teach the history. When you get into history, there can be some interpretation there. But let's get back to the point where we're saying, well, this is what we know happened, and stop trying to fill in the blanks. And when it comes to, everything from civics and English, and I mean, what was it you said the other day that in Baltimore, what was the percentage? 80% of them, they can't read. They're reading like a kindergartner. And we're just saying that's okay. So I'm just saying the system has tied the hands of teachers. Teachers don't have authority anymore. I mean, you remember the principal used to get to paddle your ass. And you acted up. And I'm not advocating for corporal punishment, but I am advocating for authority to be given back to those people who are in authority. Because here's what we're producing. If you don't have authority, if you're not under authority, you're never going to operate with authority. That's why you're going to grow up to be a smash and grabber, because you don't have any fear of authority. Well, my God, authority and understanding, it starts in the home. It should expand to your educational institutions. It should expand to the church. The places where you go, people that you should revere and people that you should respect, people who God has placed in authority over you. We don't let them express that authority anymore, because now it's just bullying and it's shaming and it's mean. Well, you see what you're going to get, folks. That is the culture that's got to change. We'll be right back. What's that? I'll tell you, I mean, if you guys want to continue talking on this whole authority thing, I can do it till I'm blue in the face. Let me ask you a question. There's no doubt Joe Biden is a mental case. But how many of you pray for Joe Biden? All right, so you want to I mean, I'm talking to those of you who say you pray. You're faith-based, you're Christian, whatever you want to be. How many of you pray for Joe Biden? And the Bible tells you to, whether you agree with him or not, right? Romans 13, verse 1, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. So even when it's the authorities you don't agree with, there's a reason they're there. There's a reason they're in the place they're in. Sometimes God gives you merciful rulers. Sometimes he gives you dictators. And so, and people say, oh, God would never. Yeah, well, 1 Peter 2:13 says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. And so for years, we've believed in the divine providence of God in America. And, I talk about the state of Texas, and you can see God's hand operating. And now government's gotten so big, we kind of thumb our nose at God's providence, and we say, okay, we'll just take it from here. And we've gotten reliant on this big government garbage. And sometimes when you do that, God says, okay, you want a king? Well, I'll give you a king. Remember what the Israelites said? They said, we want to be like the other nations. We want you to give us a king. And God said, I'm not going to give you a king. I don't want to give you a king. And so finally, he says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you what you deserve. I won't give you grace and mercy. I'll give you what you claim you want. And you'll get what you deserve. So I'm going to give you, and that's when King Saul came along. And so King Saul came along. King Saul was not a great king. He was not a great king. But then a guy came along who was unlikely, who was very flawed, named David. He had no qualifications, but the scripture says he was a man after God's own heart. Now, this was a dude who was an adulterer. He was a murderer. He wasn't on the who's list of, the people you think is God's guy. God said he's a man after my own heart. So you got to be careful, because at the end of the day, God is the one who places the authority over you, and you may not understand the person that he places. But I want to encourage you with that. You want authority, learn to operate under authority, even when that authority is not the greatest that we could possibly have. The Bible says, 1 Peter says again, or 2 Peter, he says, God gives grace to the humble, and he resists the proud. Big government is an affront to God's grace. So as long as we're embracing the benefits of big government, like AOC said, we're going to unionize the hell out of this state. You keep doing that, and God's going to resist. God's going to resist the proud, because big government's an affront to his grace. And I'll go one step further. You want to keep mocking God? Galatians 6 says, be not deceived, for God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, he will also reap. That phrase in the Greek language, to mock God, means to thumb your nose at God in his ways. You're just thumbing your nose and saying, we'll do it our way. Let's do a TikTok.
So we went to the pool, and then I asked my friend who was named Anna if she was a girl or a boy because I didn't remember if she was a girl or a boy or a they. So I asked them if they was they, boy, or girl because I didn't remember. And then that's good, right?
It's good.
Thank
So
you.
you saw that they had long braids, and you saw that she was wearing a one-piece bathing suit. But
Yeah.
even though she was dressed like a girl, you still weren't sure because people can dress however, right?
Yes, clearly.
Clearly.
So there.
Kid didn't know what he's looking at. So if I understand that video right, it was a boy who was dressed like a girl,
Yes.
and the kid was trying to figure it out,
Yes.
right? And
And the teacher decided to put this on TikTok to see how woke her kids are.
yeah. Well, kids aren't supposed to be woke. The kids are supposed to be kids. Which again, this is what happens when we're operating. I'm going to keep hammering this dead horse here. We got to get this authority thing. This is a teacher. This is a teacher. We've got to stop making ideologies into policies. We've got to stop indoctrinating kids. And this is the kind of thing that's got to stop, folks. Because, again, it gets harder and harder to submit to authority when the craziness and the nonsense of authority is run amok. And it absolutely – see, this is what happens. So teachers like that and teachers' unions and school boards and superintendents, all that, they're not operating under authority themselves. That's why they've lost all authority. And it's like a swamp out there. And again, your elected officials, they're abusing power because they're not operating with any sense of accountability either. They're not operating with any sense of authority over them. So that's why this is a government for the people, by the people. We're the ones who are in power. And these folks, they go to Washington, D.C., they go to Austin, they go to wherever your state capital is. They get into a position of power. They forget that it's delegated authority given to them by you, the electorate. And they don't understand there should be consequences when they act like, godless heathens in those positions of power and start acting like dictators. So, folks, we got an opportunity. We have an opportunity right now. These primary elections, as well heading into these midterm elections in November, we've got an opportunity to get these crazy-ass big government people out of there. Get them out of there. Stop putting Turtlehead back in there and Lindsey Graham and Nancy Pelosi, and stop putting these people in there. And I'll remind everybody, Greg Abbott in the state of Texas has been in state politics almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. Now, you want to complain about Joe Biden being there for 48? Greg Abbott's catching up. He's catching up, folks. Enough is enough. You want to call it term limits, whatever you want to do. Just go overwhelm the freaking ballot box and let's get this nonsense. Man, I can't quote the scripture and say bullshit in the same sentence. But, I saw what happened to that Heather McDonald when she cracked her skull the other day after talking about the Lord. So I try to keep myself in check a little bit, Chris. Anyway, y'all hang tight and we're going to be right back. ChadNude.com. That's where you need to go. You need to sign up, Blaze TV. I will tell you, Chris, I read The Great Reset, Glenn's new book. And now I love it. And now I'm listening to the audio version of it because, Glenn likes to ad-lib a little bit.
Does he?
Yeah, so he threw some more stuff in the audio
Really?
that's not in the book. So I encourage people to get both. Read the book, dog-ear it, highlight it, all that stuff. I'm going to be on Glenn's show Thursday morning at 10 Central. So be sure to tune in where you get the Glenn Beck radio program. But hey, ChadNude.com would be your one-stop shop for all of that stuff. Go leave us a rating and a review for the podcast. 5 stars is what we take. It's all we take, and it's what we deserve. And I'm going to see you guys around the state. I love y'all. God bless you. We will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.